Hey, it's Jules here, and welcome back to Jules FM. In part 2 of my conversation with Vikki Petraitis, we pick up at the point where commitment turns into action. Vikki is an accomplished author with more than 20 books to her name, millions of readers worldwide, and a body of work that's now extended into podcasting and the screen, including one of her books being adapted into a television miniseries. But as you'll hear, none of that is where her focus sits. In this episode, we talk about the moment Vikki made the decision to leave teaching and commit to writing full-time, what that actually looked like day to day, the routines and habits that have sustained her for decades, and the discipline it takes to keep showing up to the page, even when the motivation isn't an issue. We also explore the opportunities that came not from chasing success, but from saying yes. Yes to learning, yes to trying things she didn't yet know how to do, and yes to trusting herself as a learner. This part of the conversation is a powerful reminder that success is rarely one big leap. It's built through daily commitment, persistence, and the courage to back yourself long before there's proof it will work. Let's get into it. Back to your writing, when you decided to leave teaching and become a full-time writer, did you ever have any doubts? Like, it must have been, was it a scary leap? I won't assume. And did you ever have any doubts that, I've made the right choice to do this?
Originally, because all of us are risk averse, I took a year's leave without pay. And it was funny because I couldn't tell the school why I wanted to take the leave because I had won the prize, but I had signed an NDA to not say anything until they announced it. And then we had signed on with the Australian Federal Police to do their podcast. And again, an NDA, like they don't want anybody talking about it until they announce it. And so it was kind of a funny case, which I don't think happens to a lot of teachers, but going into the head of campus and saying, I need a year's leave without pay, but I can't really tell you why. Like, that was weird. And so the school was happy to do that. And so I jumped ship. But as I say, I was working with Case File. I knew the book was coming out. And I had to, I knew I could make the same wage that I made as a teacher because I had actually made double what a teacher was making in the work that I was doing outside of school. And so and now it's triple. Like it's just if you are working within the sphere that you love and opportunities are coming up, and it's I knew that it was okay, but you still got to pay the bills and pay the mortgage, and I've got grandkids, and we pay for their tennis lesson. Like you've still got to pay the bills. And so by the time I think it was the September of that year, the school is like, "Well, are you gonna come back next year?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no." So I'd already signed I think that maybe I was making a new podcast and I had we had signed on to do season 2 for the AFP. We're now making season 4, which is fantastic. I love doing that podcast so much. And that I was writing book 2, and so just there's a momentum that just happens. And life outside of the I was gonna say 9 to 5 of teaching, but it's not 9 to 5, it's like 8 till whatever.
Yeah.
It's just lovely. I start my days with aqua classes most mornings, and I thank the universe every day that I'm walking into the pool going, "I'm walking into a pool and not like year 9 tutor or whatever." And I'm so grateful for that these choices that I can make now.
Did you ever have any moments where you went, maybe this isn't going to work out. Maybe I'm not as good. Any self-doubts that you had to manage and work through?
It's funny, I've never had self-doubt. I think I predated, when people feel like they're a fraud, and I didn't ever have that. Like, that wasn't a thing. And I think for me, I didn't ever stop to wonder if I could do it. I just did it, and I pursued it, and you stumble through it, but I never had that kind of I never felt fraudulent, or there was probably one moment when I was doing my first interview as a writer, and I remember thinking, Oh my God, what does a writer wear? Like I was going into the Russell Street Police building to interview a detective and thinking, what does the writer look like? What does the writer wear? How does the writer talk? And I think, maybe that one wardrobe thing, you know, to look like a writer. Well, I didn't know what a writer looked like because I'd never met another writer until I became a writer. And so I just think it was that inner self-belief that you just go, I want to do it, therefore I'll do it. You'll find a way. And it's about finding for you what drives you. Like what is the thing that drives you, and it's not impossible. And it could be to be an AFL footballer, it could be to be an author, or and then even achieving that, you never stop. So I had lunch yesterday with a friend that I hadn't seen for a few years, and he said, what are you up to? And I said, well, success means that the pressure is on, because if you write a successful book, people are waiting for the next one. So there's never a day where you sit with your champagne glass going, wow, I've made it. That's not a thing, right? I don't know. Maybe it's a thing for other people. It's not a thing for me. And it's about being driven to go, what's next all the time. And, this year I'm thinking of writing a book that's completely different to crime. And it's a book that I think is needed at this time in this political climate. And it's like, well, I've never really done that before. Maybe that's next.
Do you have days when you lack motivation? And if, in which case, how do you stay motivated, especially with something so creative? And I mean, are there any sayings that you use to get you through or something you tell yourself?
So ingrained now. I don't suffer from writer's block or anything like that. I think that I keep going. Like I write every day. I very rarely take a day off. I went to Thailand for a week before Christmas, and I don't remember before that when I had a day off. So it's an everyday thing. It's doing a little bit every day. And I find this really helpful. I have a little chart, like it's a to-do list, and on top of that, I have all the projects that I'm working on and the word count. So literally a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's a table. And so I'm allowing myself not to do much over just these couple of days. I'm doing binge watching at the moment. But at the same time, every week I put a copy of that table down in the document and then I start a new one. And so that I can really map my progress, it's measurable. And I think when we teach kids about goal setting, it's got to be measurable. And I can literally map out how many words. And I was looking at my latest book, which I really had like a full month deadline. And in, I think, early September, I'd written 14,000 words. It had to be 80 by the 1st of December. And I can map it out. Like I can see how many words a day. And I find that delightful. I love doing that because it shows you a visual record of your progress.
Wow. And you never have any problems picking up where you left off and just continuing on?
If I do have problems with that, I'm working on about 3 different projects at once. So I'm working on podcast scripting, and I'm working on 2 books at the moment. And so if it didn't really feel like, or if the ideas weren't flowing for the novel, I would go and do a bit of PhD, but that's submitted now, so thank goodness. And, um or a bit of podcast scripting. So it's kind of like a kid in a candy store. You can pick the ice cream or you can pick the mixed lollies, or it just depends on what mood you're in for that day. But yeah, some days you're just not in the mood. But um,
Chip away?
yeah, but it's a job. So I
Yeah,
keep doing it.
absolutely. Once recognition came for you, Vic, did it feel the way you thought it was going to?
Recognition is a funny thing. As a writer, you don't generally get recognized in the street, right? Because people might be familiar with your book, but they don't necessarily go, "Oh, I know you," like if you're on TV. But recognition for me, it doesn't mean a lot because it's sometimes recognition can be a little bit, "Oh my God, I loved your book," and that's great. I love to hear that. But what's next in the conversation? It can't be about how good I am, right? Because that's really uncomfortable for anybody. No one wants to hear that. And I don't think it's good for you. Like we've all seen TV stars that just when they're surrounded by people that telling them that how wonderful they are, and then they end up in jail because I'm thinking of, who's that fellow, Sean Coombs or whatever, like, I'm sure that that begins with people going, "Wow, you're awesome," and you believing it. And I think that people can enjoy your books but recognition is funny because, yeah, if you've had 10 million downloads for your podcast, how does
Mm.
that even mean anything? Like, it's good, but how does it you can't get your head around it. I was saying the thing to the case file host because 'cause they're coming up to, like, 1 billion downloads, and if you say the same thing to the case file host to say, "What does that mean?" It's just like, "I don't know." It's mind-blowing, but it
Mm.
doesn't do you know what I mean? Like, you can't carry that with you or you can't. But at the same time, they're successes that no one can take away. I remember when I was doing my master's degree, and a friend of mine said, you once you've done it, and even if it's hard at the time, no one can ever take that away from you. And I guess these are the things that you chalk up. My CV gets longer, and the more awards you win or the more success you have, and maybe they spur you on a little bit, but to me, it's always about telling the story. Is it a good yarn? And so all of the other things are byproducts, but they're not what you aim for. And that might sound ridiculous, but money or fame or success, they're great, but just want to write my books.
And I think those things you mentioned as motivators are not sustainable. Like, you really need to be clear with why you're doing it and what it means for you. And for you, like you said, it's storytelling and hopefully impacting or helping someone as well along the way.
That's all you can hope for. You can
Yeah.
hope to, and I'm lucky in the work that I've done is that I've changed lives with the work that I've
Mm.
done, and that's immeasurable.
Yeah.
Like when I was talking about Mayumi and her becoming, someone who worked in the field from reading my book. I have done talks where people come up and say, "I read your book and I became a cop," or, "I read your book and now I work in security," or and it's like, well, I guess it's like for a teacher, if someone liked the way that you taught and then became a teacher because of your teaching, that's lovely. And I get so much joy out of hearing those stories. We were like, one example, which was delightful, when we did a show in London this year with Case File, and this woman got in touch with me just via messenger, and she said, "Oh, I'm coming to the show. We're sitting in the front row, and my friend has been really unwell, and we've travelled from Edinburgh to London to see the show," and I'm like, "Well, I'll come and get you. Let me know when you're there. I'll come and get you and I'll take you backstage to meet the case file host." And she's like, "What?" So I kind of went out on the stage and I went, "Come back," before we started. And they were both so emotional and we gave them by reaching out and we gave them a never forget moment and we never forgot them because meeting them was really powerful as well. And it's just like, why wouldn't you do that? If you were ever in a position that you could do that, why wouldn't you? If it meant so much to somebody, um, and I've been in touch with the woman ever since. So,
Oh,
and I've named characters after her in my new book. So it's about forming these really weird connections from over the other side of the world just because someone reached out to me or I reached out to somebody and you can make a difference in someone's life.
life changing is what it is
Yeah.
for some people, which is
Yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah.
So, for any young people who are feeling like passionate about something, and I love the fact that maybe they already know, but they don't realize that it could be something they want to do. Maybe they're not even seeing results yet. What would you like them to understand? Like, what would your advice be?
You need to understand this with sport, right? So if you go out to teach a kid to throw basketball into a hoop, they will never do it the first time. And every single kid, not maybe not every single kid, most kids in the world will miss the hoop and then they'll run and pick up the ball and then they'll try again and they'll try again and they'll try again and they will do it 1,000 times until they're really good at it. So they get it with sport, but when you sit a kid in a maths class and you give them a concept and they go, "I don't know how to do this, I'm not good at it," and they give up straight away. And I always go, "Would you do that with basketball?" And they go, "No, I'd keep trying." That's what you got to do to learn. And I think that we know it with some things in our lives. And if we want something enough, we will perfect it. It took me 10 years, I think, to perfect pavlova. And,
They're
it just
amazing
never
now.
got big enough or fluffy enough, and, one day it clicked and it's gotta be like this, but I never gave up, and I don't give up in anything that means something to me, and that if you want it enough and you wanna challenge yourself enough, you find the thing that you're good at and trust yourself as a learner. If you do more of it, you'll get better at it.
And how long were you a writer before you had any kind of recognition?
See, my story is not typical, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I found the case that I wanted to write about. I followed Gary Provost's instructions in how to write sell true crime. I wrote 3 chapters. I sent it off to a publisher, and the publisher rang me the next day and went, "Yeah, sounds good. I want to publish it." So I didn't have that. When that publisher moved to Sydney and wasn't publishing anymore, I wrote another book. So all the cops that I interviewed with the first book, they all went, "Oh, if this one doesn't work out, we've got heaps of good stories, come back." So the minute that book was finished, I had a deep hole in my life that I was working full time. I had a small child, but it's like, I need the writing, I need the writing. It's very addictive. And so I just went back to these guys and went, tell me your stories. And so I wrote that book and again rang a publisher, sent it to a publisher, and they rang me the next day and went, "We want to do it." And it wasn't until Frankston that I couldn't get a publisher. All of a sudden,
Mm.
publishers went, "Ooh, we don't want to publish serial killers. We don't want to do that kind of thing." So I never knew it was hard to get a publisher until Frankston. And then once again, that door slammed in my face. No publisher would touch it. And I had a conversation with John Sylvester, who's Sly of the Underworld, and he said to me, he goes, "Do it yourself. We self-publish." Like they had their own publishing company to do their stuff. And he goes, "It's not hard." And because I'd written 2 books, I used the same editor, the same cover designer, the same distributor. And we just went, "Yeah, it's not hard. I know the process because I've been through it." And I
Mm.
just did it. And so I never thought it would fail. It was a calculated risk. Like I said, we had to sell 2,300 books. My other books had sold 3,000. So I was confident that we would sell 3,000.
Mm.
And, but it just was a runaway success. It was a bestseller within a couple of months, and it changed it changed the genre in publishing. So, I don't know, it's persistence and never giving up, but being very single-minded about it as well.
And I think that self-belief, Vicky, that you've touched on is that you never doubted it. You just always knew this is going to work and this is who I am. This is what I do.
Yeah, and it did work, and it still
Mm.
works.
Yep.
And I never like you see so many, younger people today that talk about, "I feel like a fraud," and it's just like, "Why? Just do it. Just have a crack. Because the worst you can do is fail, but at least you'll always be able to say, 'I had a go at it.' And if you don't try, if you don't push yourself, and find the best use of your smarts, then you will never achieve your potential." And I think I'm living proof that you can, and reinventing yourself. Like, podcasting wasn't invented when I started teaching, and I never would have thought one day I would leave teaching to become a podcaster because it wasn't a thing. And, that ended up being a thing. And I think taking a calculated risk is good. I never risked my house or my mortgage, um, but it was taking risks and trusting is in yourself as a learner, and saying yes to stuff that you don't know how to do. That's really challenging, but it's fun.
Absolutely. And by saying yes, Vicky, you touched on a few already. There have been so many incredible opportunities that have come from doing that. They've been, like you said, you've got a podcast, you've finished or about to finish your 20th book, you've got a TV series. Are there any other opportunities that came about that you would never have expected because you just said yes and followed this path?
Well, no, but then you get to the point where I sat down the other day looking at my goals for 2026, and of all the weird and wacky, wild goals that I had last year, I achieved all of them. So the TV series was made, I got an international publishing deal, And this year, one of my goals is to do international book festivals. So every time I see an author buddy of mine posting from bloody Scotland or, the Bristol Crime Festival or whatever, I'm like, that'll be me next year. So I
Yeah.
know that that's a new goal. I haven't cracked the American market yet. So that's a goal. Um, I want to, a friend of mine does talks on actually, I know a few people that authors that do talks on cruises, and so they get invited onto a cruise and they travel for free and they do some talks, and they get a cruise and then they meet really interesting people. And I'm like, well, that's my next thing. And funnily enough, my agent, he is just about to sign a contract for us to do exactly that. So I think it's just this is another thing too that I think is so vital that when you meet somebody who has a success that you would like, there's two ways to look at it, and I've seen both. So I've seen writers that look at another writer's success and go, oh, that'll never happen to me. Gee whiz,
Probably
it
won't.
doesn't.
Mhm.
The way I've always looked at it is every time a writer has a success, I look at it and I go, oh my God, I'm so delighted for them, but you've shown me it's possible. So if you've got a billboard on Times Square for your book, you've shown me that that's possible. If you're offered a free cruise to do some writer talks, you've shown me that that's a thing. And I go, I'm going to do that. And every time I look at it and get delighted about somebody's success, it opens the door for me. But the opposite of that works absolutely true as well. If you go, that'll never happen to me, it won't.
I think that may be the key to your success, Vicky, that recognition and happiness for other people, because you're not seeing them as a threat. So you're not in that fear mode. You're actually going, yes, I can do that. I love it.
A friend of mine is the head of Libraries Victoria, Angela Savage, and she's an author and she did a PhD. She was one of the ones that convinced me to do it. And she always said that every author's success is every other author's success in the sense that I can only write one book a year, but people need to read 50 books a year. So if they read mine and like it, they need another one. And so we perpetuate each other's success. And I love that idea um, that we are all part of the same organic success. And it is about celebrating each other. And it's not about, there's no room for jealousy and there's no room for, um, professional angst. It's all about, she just showed me it was possible. And if you think like that, your life is so much easier than going, oh my God, that'll never happen to me. Because it will. It will.
I always like to think when I meet someone and they're telling me about what they're doing, what can I do to help you make that happen for you? Because I kind of think with that mentality, I'm helping to build and the same sort of idea. If they're successful, it's not about coming back to making me successful, but it just makes everything better. If people are happy and doing what they love and you've somehow contributed to that, like that's amazing.
It's a really exciting space, and to see people that take a chance on something and achieve incredible successes and be around people like that. I remember going to a David Award with Sisters in Crime with a teacher colleague because my mum was going to go and she wasn't well, and I bought the ticket, and a girl from school went. And everyone that wrote the books, they would do read their bios. And it's like, so and so's a lawyer and she saves children from other countries and she's written this book. And everybody's a high achiever, right? And this girl leaned over to me and she goes, now I see why you have to come to this, because these people are aspirational and they're all doing what you're doing, but you almost need to get have people in your life that are doing it better and more successfully so that you can look at them and go, wow, it's possible. And I think if you ever position yourself as king of the castle, I don't think that's healthy. And I think that you always need to have people that are doing it bigger and doing it better so that you can go, whoa, that's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely. It's like having a mentor, even if they're not, you haven't communicated that. someone to look up to and model yourself on, and see what success can look like. I think that's invaluable. And a lot of the guests I've spoken to have said the same thing, how important that is for their journey. So I couldn't agree more. And my final question for you, Vic, when you reflect back on your journey, what does success mean to you now, and has that meaning changed?
Well, it's something I've been pondering a lot about recently. What is success, right? Because my success on paper is now getting to it's almost looks silly, right? If I met someone for the first time and said I've just done a PhD, written 20 books, TV series, 10 million download, like it sounds big, but people have to realize that's 35 years of work. That's not overnight. I didn't do that yesterday. And so a cumulative success is it's great, but it's never then devoid of challenge. It never stops, right? Because it's about the next challenge. So when I'd written, I think, I don't know, 17 true crime books, it's like, I'm going to write fiction. And that's the next challenge. And now I've written three crime fiction novels. So one will be coming out in 2026 and another true crime. It's like, I think I might challenge myself to do something away from crime altogether and to cover themes that are important to me, but to talk about something completely different. So part of it is always, for me, success is having the ability to choose what's next and what's next in a way that's not chasing something. I remember when 50 Shades of Grey came out, that I never read
Yeah,
it,
I
but
remember it.
anyway, a lot of people did. But
Very
uh,
salacious, apparently.
there was a lot of writers that were going, "Oh my God, we've got to write bondage or whatever." I'm like, I'm not writing bondage
Mm.
because that's not my thing. And 50 Shades of Grey would have been successful because the writer did it first. And so
Mm.
you don't, success isn't about copying what other people do. It's about writing true crime when no one else was writing it, and podcasting when no one else was podcasting. And then when everyone's writing true crime, to walk away and go, all right, I'll write fiction. And it's about not chasing what someone else is doing and copying it. It is really about being intuitive enough to go, I think there's lots of hints on social media at the moment about the world needs kindness,
Mm.
and that's what I want to have a novel that's based around that. And they're starting to emerge, but I want to write one. What if instead of being divided, an event happened that brought everyone together? And I think that needs to be the next thing that I do. So yeah, it's just about chasing it. But it's never about what success is in terms of, "Oh, this will make me money." I've never done that. It's good when it does, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't. So, because 'cause I'll still have a crack at it.
I hope you enjoyed part 2 of my conversation with Vikki Petraitis. If this episode resonated with you, whether it was her commitment to the craft, her absolute trust and knowing in who she was, or the way opportunities unfolded simply because she said yes, I'd love you to share it with someone who's quietly working towards a life of their own greatness. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit follow so you don't miss future episodes of Jules FM and the conversations still to come. Until next time.